will be taking place at noon. Is that correct? Representative? Yeah. And members do have to go to attend to the conference committee. So go ahead and start off the luncheon kind of early. Thank you everyone for coming. I know this is our third one for the week. Series of lunches we've had for our delegation. I want to thank all those who've been in response to my emails in regards to their availability. Of course, we have a lot that's going on in our region, whether it's transportation, whether it's economic development, of course, what's been going on with Integra Technologies coming in. So I'm glad that all our members are engaged per se. With that, I'll go ahead and introduce our sponsors and our presenters today. The Kansas Habitat for Humanities from Wichita, is that right? I'm from Wichita. You're from Wichita? Yeah. Okay. Shauna Williams is the president of the organization. We do want to thank you, so I'll go ahead and turn over the mic to you. But before I do that, does any member have any comment or anything to say by chance, or do you want to wait till after? No member, okay. Representative Water, you join us as well, or? Yeah, come on in. Yeah, come on in. Come on in. All right, Shauna, go ahead. I'll give it to you. You're now recognized.
Thank you so much. My name is Shauna Williams with Habitat for Humanity Kansas, and we thank you so much for joining us today. I am happy to introduce to you, we have 6 of our Habitat local organizations from across the state who are also joining us. We have Habitat Kansas City over here, who serves Wyandotte,
Wyandotte, Leavenworth, and Johnson counties.
Lawrence Habitat for Humanity, Erica Zimmerman, who serves Douglas County and Jefferson County. Danielle Johnson with Sedgwick County, or with Wichita Habitat for Humanity, who serves in Sedgwick County. We have Franklin County, and you serve only Ottawa, or?
Yeah, we serve Franklin County.
They serve all of Franklin County. And also outside, we have Josh Brewer with Manhattan Habitat for Humanity, who serves Potawatomi and Riley County, both. And I believe that is all we have. Thank you so much for joining us. We wanted to just make sure that you are aware of the housing crisis that is happening in Kansas. You're going to hear a number of statistics today from the people who are actually doing the work. So I'm going to be very brief, but I do want you to know about Habitat for Humanity briefly. We have a few myths that I want to make sure that you're to distinguish, or, yeah. One, we don't give homes away. We do have home buyers who purchase our homes, and we do provide loans to our low-income home buyers. We work with people who make between 30 and 80% of the area median income for Kansas, and so that does vary throughout the state. The ways that we serve these home buyers and homeowners is through new home construction, home repair, and providing education. Each of our home buyers does have to be approved for our programs by meeting 3 criteria: need for housing, ability to pay, and willingness to partner. All of these folks are directly involved into the work that they're doing by providing sweat equity in the form of hands-on, building a hammer or swinging a hammer and working with to build their own home and the homes of their neighbors, or they even just provide supports to the affiliate by sharing about information. So that's a brief background about Habitat for Humanity. I want to go ahead and swing it over to Danielle Johnson, because she's to my left. And yeah, go ahead.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you all for your time. I know this is a busy time for you, so thank you for sitting in for the lunch. I represent the Sedgwick County area. I'm actually from the Wichita Habitat for Humanity. I serve as the executive director in that space. What we know, and we have some of these numbers from our own housing director, Sally Stang, out of Wichita. We're down about 50,000 affordable housing units in Sedgwick County, and that's alarming, right? And those numbers are going to continue to grow. We are an organization that is about serving our community through affordable housing, specifically through home ownership. ownership. My hope is that every one of you all have one of these folders. If not, I will make sure that you get them. This really, again, is for those that represent the Sedgwick County area. We do new construction, we do home repair, we do have a restore, and we want to ensure that we are engaging our community and understanding the importance of affordable housing. So really, we would like to engage you all in our upcoming legislative build. I only have a short amount of time because there's some other Habitat affiliates here that would like to share, but come out and build with us. It's about a half day. We'll do a lunch and learn. We'll be very brief, but it'll give you an opportunity to see just where we're focusing. We are really focusing on urban infill. So when you think about Northeast Wichita, when you go from 9th to 17th Street, Grove to Hillside, we have about 90 homeowners in that space. We're seeing crime statistics come down. We're seeing those 911 calls go down because we have some folks that have skin in the game. There are homeowners in that space. And so we really hope that you all will consider working alongside us as you continue to do your legislative bills, or when we think about dollars allocated, that it's not just on the rental homelessness side of the spectrum of housing, but that we're also pouring into home ownership and how do we support the organizations that are engaged in that work. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Hi, I'm Kellen Jenkins. I'm with Habitat for Humanity of Kansas City. Like I briefly said, for the Kansas side, we serve both Wyandotte, Johnson, and Leavenworth counties. I want to thank you all for taking a moment just to come down, meet with us, learn a little bit more about Habitat. There is an affordable housing crisis here in Kansas. It's undeniable, and we do need your support in addressing that. So I just want to voice my general encouragement for each of you to get to know us, reach out to us, talk to us. We have the numbers, we have the stats, we also have the stories to really prove that our program works, but affordable housing is needed for the state if we're going to continue to grow economically. We really need to start considering affordable housing as workforce housing. It's not tenable for us to continue to grow and not provide affordable housing for the job growth that we're seeing. And we must start beginning to think about that and how we can include affordable housing into our efforts. So again, I'm Kellen Jenkins. I'm with Habitat for Humanity of Kansas City. If you have any questions or want to learn more about what we're doing up in the Kansas City area or generally what we're doing in Kansas, I encourage you all to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to connect with each and every one of you. So thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I'm Erica Zimmerman. I'm the Executive Director for Lawrence Habitat. We service Douglas and Jefferson counties. I would just echo what Kellen said about the housing crisis and looking at it as workforce housing in Douglas County. As you all may have heard, the Panasonic plan is coming in, and so we're facing some even higher housing crises than we already have in our community. Just some positive news about some of the things that are happening in Douglas and Jefferson counties. We are utilizing the USDA 502 direct loan program, if that's something that you are familiar with, but also the moderate income housing program as well to build housing in Douglas County. We're looking forward to connecting with our Jefferson County representatives today to be able to continue to build in that community as well. So we too would love to connect and have you come out and see the work being done in Douglas and Jefferson County. One of the other things that we're working on is home repairs. We realized real quickly that building housing is really expensive and difficult to sustain. So we're working on repairing the housing that is already in. As you saw from the state housing assessment, how old our housing stock really is in Kansas. And so we've taken on repairing some of those houses to maintain the affordability of them. So thank you so much for your time and for being here, and let us know how we can connect and get you engaged in Habitat. Thank you.
Dad used to say, a retired pastor, the spirits moved me. Excuse me. Affordable housing is not a privilege. It is a basic human right. Sorry. As a retired teacher, I felt a little compelled to say something. In Franklin County, since 1980, Kelly, she's got the statistics. How many present homes do we have? We probably did about 25 to 30 homes. Okay. Super small, yeah. All right. And one of the great things about living in a small town like Ottawa as long as I have, and being a school teacher, is that I've worked on houses or been around houses that I had former students being raised in. So it establishes a real sense of community as well. And those families then become a stronger, just as was mentioned, members of the community, because crime goes down, violence goes down, and so on and so forth. So careful consideration to these matters. Thank you very much.
Josh Brewer with Manhattan Habitat for Humanity. I'm putting him on the spot because he just walked in. So.
Good morning. Sorry, I'm coming from the food line here. We are the Manhattan Area Habitat for Humanity. We serve both Riley and Pottawatomie County, and then provide some accessibility modification services to Junction City as well. Big picture, what we've been working on the past couple of years, we're finding in our area that the workforce challenges and the workforce housing challenges are pretty interconnected. And so we can't build houses without workers, and we're hearing from our construction companies that they can't attract and retain workers without the type of housing that we can't build. And so back in 2020, we reached out to K-State, to local technical college, Manhattan Area Technical College, and to Fort Riley, because these are some of the bigger attractors of talent in our region, and started asking them what it would take to get students out on the job sites and to raise the competency of those students, and then get an opportunity, get those students in front of local employers, and hopefully keep them in our region a little bit better. And so we did a pilot build with those students. Students from K-State Architecture designed a house, Manhattan Area Technical College and Fort Riley built that house. And so we put that on the market back in 2020, appraised really well, performed really well. And so we're doing our second build with that process now, where the students, again, they took all the feedback from the contractors that were there, from the community, from the home buyer, and went back to the drawing board and redesigned a second house that we're building across from an elementary school in a rural community off of Fort Riley. And so we're hoping to close on that house here at the end of the year and start all over again. I don't know if we're answering questions or not, but does anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah, is anybody else that would like to present before I bring it to the delegation? Okay, Representative Blex.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are you dealing with just new housing building, or is this some remodeling, or what? Would a remodeling qualify?
We have the ability to do renovations. We've only done one whole house renovation in the past 2 years. We're seeing really high demand for accessibility modifications. So we build a lot of wheelchair ramps, shower grab bars, things like that. And then just basic home preservation, trying to prevent something from going to a condition where we're gonna need a full house reno. But we were able to complete one renovation this year. We're part of the Manhattan Afghan resettlement team. And those Afghan families they have large families. And so we were able to find a large old single family home that had been converted into multiple units, and kind of restore that and bring it back to code.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'd like to touch base. I know we talk about affordable housing, but if someone can talk about what's being done, particularly in Western Kansas. I know that Representative Getz, you're here, and what's being done in rural Kansas as well to make sure that our citizens are, how will I say, not forgotten. I know sometimes we try to focus on, bigger cities, but, our citizens in Western Kansas, sometimes, may not get the level of attention compared to those in the urban area. So if we can talk to or speak to in regards to what's being done in rural Kansas, especially Western Kansas. I know he's from representative here from Dodge City.
Representative from
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
So yes, one of the things about Habitat for Humanity is that we are an international organization, and we are made up of affiliates, local community organizations that are serving in individual service areas. Currently, there is not a Habitat for Humanity affiliate in Dodge City. There was one in Garden City not too long ago, and I think that might have been the closest one to you all. We do partner with agencies. I get a number of calls as the Habitat Kansas affiliate, trying to find out resources. Most of the time, we send them on to USDA Rural Development. A number of affiliates are using those funds to provide housing. In Eudora, currently, they're building. And then we also have some of our homes in Cowley County are in those are rural areas, but overall, we're limited right now on our ability to serve in those smaller communities because of the service area that we're confined to. So,
Well, thank you. The things that I do know, Habitat has done some work in Dodge with the Garden City group. It must have been a Garden City partnership because I know they have done 2 or 3 houses in the last few years that I thought were Habitat affiliated, whether it was, I know there's a program that the college and high school partner with local contractors, and they both do renovations and build. They're normally doing 2 a year, one that's a renovation of an older home and then a new build. Okay. And so then only the college can market those. My wife's a realtor, so they always have draw straws for who gets to list that one. So I know there is some things happening, whether it is with Habitat or a very side partnership, and they're not all that involved, so.
yeah, what has happened, I think, in some of those smaller areas is the Habitat for Humanity itself disbanded, but they kept the same core group of volunteers or core staff or whoever to consider, because our program model is a great one, right? Bringing people together to build and doing the renovations and that, so that's probably what happened there.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman. Do you guys still have a partnership with Sterling College? I asked somebody this, but it was 20 years ago, so a lot can change in 20 years, but I just wondered if there was still a partnership with Sterling College. I don't think so. I recall that. You remember? 15 years ago, and I was a volunteer with Habitat, and we had people who came, and I don't think we have that. That would be something definitely to. They used to have great scholarship programs, had young, leadership development stuff through Habitat. They got to travel some. I mean, it was really cool program, brought some great people to the school, and then released them into the world to do an amazing work. So thank you for what y'all do. Yeah.
I'll have to look into that. My role is new, serving. I don't build houses with Habitat for Humanity Kansas. I provide support to the 16 affiliates that do. So my role, though, is to build relationships with organizations and groups that can advance our work. So I'm going to reach out to Sterling College. Yeah. Are there other questions?
any more questions? Representative Terrawater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So for those of you that haven't been to the restores, I'm in construction. One of my businesses is construction. We donate a lot to the restore. We also buy a lot at the restore, and it's very reasonable, and it's a great organization. Wish you were open more. Sundays would be great. But my question is, I'm glad that you're working with K-State and other colleges. I'd like to see more of that, and I don't know, I'm sure there's something we can do to spur that up here. But do you also take advantage? We have some really good rural housing programs that we put together last year, and a lot of people are not even aware that they're there. And I've traveled the state, and we've done several presentations to teach the local authorities on how it works. Do you guys take advantage of any of that? Because you could literally build houses for 60 cents on the dollar if you do. Do you use that?
I don't believe that there are any affiliates right now that are doing that, and again, it's because of that service area that we're limited to. I know that one of the things that Manhattan is doing is they're expanding into more of the rural areas, like and then also Lawrence Habitat is doing the same thing. So those are great resources that I think we're trying to figure out how we can engage, because we definitely recognize that rural housing has a great need as well. So thank you for the.
Just to follow up on Representative Tarwater's question, in regards to the work that you guys are doing, what do you need from the legislature to expand, or, is there anything that is needed, or is anything that we should look at? Definitely not this session, but next session that could actually benefit, or from what Representative Tarwater was alluding to. Is there anything that by chance or the legislature needs to look at, I should say?
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that information about the rural programs, because we're always looking for that information. So if I could share my card with you and maybe connect with you on that information, but just helping us connect with those opportunities that we might not be aware of. All of my colleagues work really hard to make sure that we're aware of all the funding sources, but if you see one that comes across your desk or learn of one, always feel free to reach out. I think your knowledge and what you know and what you carry also can help us do our jobs better. So my answer would be share any knowledge that you think of, any type of partnerships or any type of opportunities that would help us build more houses.
Representative Tarwater, does that fall under Commerce, or is that, from what she's talking, does it for the Commerce Department, or is that just a question?
As a workforce development issue, it does, because we've got companies, especially in western Kansas, that are growing, and there's really no place to put their new employees. They can't.
Okay.
They all live in temporary housing around town.
Okay. I was trying to answer the question she was alluding to in terms of opportunities and grants and all of that. I didn't know if it fell under the Commerce Department. Well, just thinking out loud.
I think it could go through several different committees, but it's probably an appropriations deal.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was just going to add to just utilizing us as a housing resource as you all are continuing to create legislation or any of those things. I know we have KHRC. We work alongside KHRC as well, but we are the boots on the ground building the homes and doing the home repair program. So how can we better connect and get anything that you all need from us in front of you all as you consider the things that you're funding or the things that you're putting in place? So we would love to be considered as that housing expert in this community. And again, we all do a little bit of something different. So please consider getting with your affiliates as soon as possible so we can be prepared for next year.
Oh, Representative Rickett has a question first, so go ahead, Representative.
Okay, thank you. For doing housing repairs, do you work with people that are disabled or elderly? And I know that they're supposed to have some skin in the game. What do you do to get skin in the game?
Yeah, that's a great question. We definitely do work with people who have disabilities. We work with veterans. We work with everyone really who fits in that fit our criteria within the AMI, the area median income. The sweat equity is the question that you're asking as far as what can people with limited abilities do. They can do so many things. We rely on volunteers. We rely on our home buyers and our homeowners that we work with to share about Habitat. So even making calls to say thank you for your donation, or prepping. I think one of the big things, because we do use volunteers, prepping a space to clean up before we can come in. I mean, that can also be sweat equity. And if they get family members to come and help them, that's perfect. We just really want them to recognize the partnership in this program. So, yeah. Thank you.
Just one second. Senator Fausto, I know you said you have to go to the conference committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a conference committee to go to that started at noon. So just a quick question from the proposal that Habitat has submitted somewhat to the legislature at this late in the game. Where are we at, and what is something we can do to financially help before the session is over?
Yeah, what did you say? Yeah, the Spark dollars were the numbers, or the ones that we were talking about, I think, recently. So we did not, no.
Letter of support from us might be helpful.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Representative Blex, you had a follow-up?
Thank you. I noticed on your maps of the Habitat kind of district, they kind of spill over into a little bit of rural. They're primarily, and I'm focusing on Winfield and Arc City areas. Do you build many houses, or are you willing to go out into some of, say, the small towns? And that's where I have a lot of small towns in my district, and there's a lot of houses that appear to be fairly structurally sound, and for whatever reason, they're either an absentee landowner or whatever, and there seems to be a lot of opportunity. And what we do have in a lot of that rural area, we have deer hunting outfitters that will come in and renovate those small 2 and 3 bedrooms and then have a seasonal 2 or 3 months out of the year. But it's a huge problem in those small towns. And so I was wondering, your district only looks like it's primarily covering urban areas. Do you have any plans or any ability to work, say, in an adjacent small town?
When we're working in some of those larger counties, like Sedgwick County or Riley County and Douglas County and Jefferson, they are able to kind of go out into their county specifically. But because of the way Habitat for Humanity International kind of confines us to our service area, we're not able to go out into an area where we're not welcome yet. One of those big reasons is because all of our funding comes from, or not all of it, but a majority of our funding comes from individuals and local donors and corporations. So finding volunteers that are willing to work in that area, finding donors that are willing to, build in those areas, that's the conflict. But I am hoping to expand our housing service areas into those smaller areas, hopefully in the next few years. So, thank you.
Representative Tarwater.
Thanks. I just had a follow-up to earlier. So when you provide somebody with a home, and you said you work primarily through home ownership, what kind of rules do you have in place? What if they sell the house quickly, or is there a certain amount of time? Do you still retain some ownership in the house, or do you have first right of refusal to put somebody else in that house if they leave, that kind of thing?
Mm-hmm. Great question. We do have first right of refusal in most of our mortgages. One of the things that we are able to do is provide a silent second mortgage. There is a large gap between the cost to build a home and the appraised value of the home. We're only able to sell, obviously, the home at the appraised value. So that difference between the cost of the home and the appraised value will turn into a silent mortgage that is forgivable, but that kind of keeps the homeowner in the home. We have had homeowners. I mean, our home ownership program is just like if you were to go out and buy, on the market, except that we have low interest, typically a 0% interest loan. So that's the biggest difference, and that we are working with people that have difficulty obtaining a mortgage, from a conventional loan. So one of the things that we really do is we work alongside them prior to selling the actual closing to make sure that they're learning those educational skills, financial literacy, and that kind of thing. There are some limitations. We do have a Federal Home Loan Bank grant that provides down payment assistance for some of the homes, so that does have, some of those do have a retention agreement attached to those. So,
Representative Carr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You mentioned that there was some form of forgivability with relationship to the gap between the selling price and the appraised value. Can you speak in more detail with respect to that forgivability?
I can try. So that's related to the various affiliates will work their financing in different ways. Some affiliates are able to provide that affordability mortgage, which is that silent second mortgage. And in that, some affiliates will say every 5 years, 25% of that loan is forgiven. Every 5 years you live in the house, 25% of that loan is forgiven. Some of them do it annually and amortize it that way, so it just really, it depends. But does that?
So as a follow-up, do we have a list? Is that, do we have it? Did I miss it? Is there a list of those lenders that offer that forgivability piece, or how would I get that information?
All of the Habitat affiliates hold their own loans. We are providing the loan to the home buyer. We don't use a outside lender. So the local Habitat affiliate will provide that loan.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Representative Carmichael?
Thank you. Can't even talk right today. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the chance to ask a few questions. I received a telephone call from one of the Habitat people's spouse while I was here, and so I had to step out. So if this question's already been asked and answered, just tell me. Two things come to mind. First, in my community, Wichita, there is a concern by some that housing which could and should be rehabilitated is instead being condemned, torn down, left vacant, and then eventually good organizations, Habitat, which I support, I really like the work you do, comes in and builds a new house. I was interested to hear, though, from Habitat of Douglas County that they apparently have a program to try to restore, repair, rehabilitate some existing residences. Do we have that in Wichita? If not, should we or do we? And I see the spouse of someone who interrupted me bringing me perhaps the answer.
Talk to him about that because he knew.
Oh, you're talking
He
about
said
me?
he said he knew where to find me, and he said it was because he knew there'd be free food. But I don't know if that's. I see Kathy seriously did just hand me something, so there is such a program. So hopefully that will alleviate some of the criticism. Is there any comment that I need to hear beyond what I just received?
I would share, so for Wichita Habitat, we do new construction and we do home repair. The average of our home repairs are about $14,000 right now, and so we do work alongside our other organizations like SCED, the City of Wichita, to see how we can go in and holistically get that home to a decent standard of living. So that program does exist. We always need more funding.
How large is that in terms of the number of residences that are successfully rehabilitated and returned to the housing market per year?
I don't have that, but I know that it's still an application process, so they still have to fit our criteria and a certain area median income. They have to make sure that they're up on their taxes, those sort of things. We did about 24 homes last year, but the capacity really comes from
24 repair and rehabilitate homes, or 24 new homes, or 24 homes total?
24 homes repaired.
Okay. Okay. Second question has to do with land banks. Okay. I think the status of the Wichita is that theoretically we have one, but it's not working. Can somebody just bring me up to date because I've lost track?
We do have a land bank, and that land bank right now is going through the process of making sure that all their criteria is where it needs to be. So it's not, there's meeting, and they're still creating some of the policies and procedures, but they're not in a space to receive land just yet.
How long has that been in progress, and how soon do you expect it to be an actual operation? And I know it's not Habitat's program, but you're here, and this is where I get a chance to learn.
Yeah. Well, and I would say, and we do have, well, Councilman Levanto wasn't here, so for 8 years they talked about a land bank, maybe even longer than that. This last 2 years they've been really trying to get it functioning. I don't have an answer for when it will be prepared to actually get the land and be able to have organizations utilize that, but that's certainly something that we've been waiting to be able to engage in.
I appreciate that difficult answer. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
And if possible, once you do get that information, if you can send it to me, I'll send it to the members in regards to his question.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Did you have a question, Representative Gardner? Garden, is that? Gardner. Okay, go ahead.
Were there other questions?
No, did you make a comment?
No, I was just.
Oh, okay.
If there were questions, standing.
Okay, Senator, do you have a question? Okay. Anybody else have a question for our presenters? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. This has been very informative. Of course, I know when I spoke with Danielle, she was like, she wants to come. And I'm like, okay, I'll find a date for my delegation to hear the presentations. I want to thank everyone for coming today. I do see a lot of friends in the audience. My good friend Chris Mann is also in the house. Thank you very much for coming. As I said at the well today, colleagues, so it looks like this might be our last luncheon for the session, depending on what things look like when we come back for veto session. If I'm able to get another presenter, probably during that week of veto session, I could have another luncheon. So all I can say is be on the lookout for your emails. Of course, I do send out a lot of emails. So I want to thank everyone. Does any member have anything before I adjourn? Yes, Representative Water.
I just wanted to thank you for your hospitality. Thanks for having me. I've officially been to your meetings more than I have Johnson County, so.
Well, Representative, you are welcome anytime. Of course, my policy is, hey, we're all family here. So, any member is welcome to join our meetings and just to get information as well. So we definitely welcome you as well. So with that, thank you everyone for coming, and we are adjourned.